Hello and welcome back to another episode of Social Impact Live. I'm your host, Darrell Coleman, and on today's episode, I want to talk to you social entrepreneurs, you innovators out there about my son who last night woke up at a sort of random time, throwing off his entire schedule. And I want to sort of relate this to some of what we go through. This weekend, we took our son to the aquarium, a socially distanced opportunity at the aquarium where he could see things, see animals and creatures that he'd never seen before for the first time. My son is 1 year old. He is new to seeing these things, and he's mostly grown up within the pandemic of 2020, so he hasn't had the opportunity to see a lot of things out in the world. He hasn't seen tons of people before in a lot of these contexts, etc. So we had this chance to take him to the aquarium. We took him to the aquarium, and it ended up being a challenging experience in that it overlapped with nap time. We thought he would sleep in the car, which he sometimes does, but this time he did not, which meant that he was irritable throughout the experience and ultimately ended up missing a lot of what would have been his nap. Well, for those of you who are parents, you'll know that means that his sleep schedule was thrown off, and him going to bed at his normal time has been affected over the next couple of days. So for the last few days, he's been sort of re-regulating, getting back on the right schedule. And last night, he went to bed about an hour and a half early. Unfortunately, this meant that he didn't get to go through the normal routine that he goes through. He didn't get to have as much food as he normally has, etc. And he only slept for about an hour and a half, then waking up from what he perceived as a nap at around 6:30 p.m., which is when he should have been going to bed. So what this led to was 6:30, 7:30, 8:30, 9:30 p.m. having a son who is 1 year old who can barely sort of walk, has different devices and objects that he likes to carry around the house, using these to go from end to end all over the place with all of this energy, in a really fascinating way. And so my wife and we're looking at each other and we're just sort of like, this is your kid. But it made me think about the energy that I have had and that I sometimes have in my own life, but especially the energy that entrepreneurs have. As I watch him, I saw a post recently. It said that kids are just a smaller version of yourself. You're battling with a small version of yourself until you both get tired and you pass out. That's what I read. And as I look at him, I see this energy that just continues to increase and increase and increase inside of him the older he gets. And I think that's me. I used to have that level of energy. In fact, for a long time, I expressed that level of energy into the world, not just as a person who ran around and who did sports and who, did school and who, ran for positions and all these things that young people do, but also as an entrepreneur. I express that same energy as an entrepreneur. So thinking of him up at random times, thinking of him being in like a 0 or 1 position, an all or nothing position, right? He's either got tons of energy and he's using it all, or he's sleeping. That was a lot of what my entrepreneurial journey was like. I started my first business when I was 21 years old, and built the business, a little bit from there. That one didn't work out, and then started the next business when I was 22 years old, and have been using an energy similar to what my son expressed last night the entire time. It's been this sort of expression of energy in fits and starts at random times without much of a schedule, as I've seen from him over the last few days. So I discovered early in my journey that I work really well at night. When I actually launched the thing that started the current business that I run, I actually went to bed early for 3 days straight. I went to bed at around 8, and I woke up 2 hours later at 10. And then I worked from 10 till 3 a.m., 10 p.m. till 3 a.m. to refine ideas for what I was working on. And I did that for 3 days straight. as I was making progress, right? And I found that that time period was one that I had a lot of productivity. I was doing great. My roommates were asleep. The world was asleep. There was no one sending me messages. I wasn't distracted by anything, and I was able to make this progress. And I kept those sorts of hours up for years. So I would work at random times. I would work later in the evening. I would work, early in the morning. I would spend my days, since I was self-employed, I would spend my days sort of going on walks, or I would try to get some work done, but would be less productive, or I would attend to the things that the thing that was actually providing my income, right? My other source of income, which I was a tutor for a long time. I would tend to those duties, but a lot of my work ended up getting done in these pockets of time that you couldn't have planned for when that was going to be. Is he gonna get his work done at 3:30 in the afternoon till 7:30? Is he going to get his work done from 10 p.m. till 3 a.m.? That wasn't super clear. So watching him was a fascinating experience, because that was the reflection that I had, that I think relates to all of you, that you as entrepreneurs, likely experience some version of this. There's an energy to being an innovator. There's an energy to being an entrepreneur. There's an energy that comes with it that wakes you up at times. It keeps you up at times. It hits you, and you have the motivation and the inspiration to do your work at a time when others might be sleeping or eating or otherwise following a normal schedule, a more standard routine. So I had that thought, and I was like, let me tell that story, but also let me tell about the transition that I made more recently, because I realized that while that energy was really helpful, and I think that is the energy of an entrepreneur who is starting out. It doesn't have to be. You might have a very clear routine that you follow, and you're able to get your work done within certain parameters. And if that's you, and you're young and you're early in your process, congratulations. That wasn't me. But more recently, I have transitioned into that phase where I've recognized that despite, I've built a business, I have employees, I have customers, I've worked with, the Environmental Protection Agency and the Obama Foundation and the Centers for Disease Control and the government of Santa Clara County and Syracuse and Newburgh, New York, and all of these clients. I've had these clients, right? I built this business to this point using the type of energy that my son was expressing last night. But I've recognized that to get to the next level, for me, is really going to require a different approach than the one I've used to get here. Rather than leveraging my ability to do things in these pockets of time, it really is going to require consistency, incremental, constant, relentless stepping toward my goals, toward building systems that replicate the same outcomes over and over, that drive toward clear and tangible objectives that are measurable and meted out. And that's not to say that we didn't have clear objectives before and some of these other pieces, but the piece that's really different now is this consistency piece. And so that's really what I just wanted to leave you with today, is that as you go on your journey, you might find yourself in either one of these spaces. Perhaps you have sort of seemingly random energy that you're expressing into the world in order to make your dreams come true. Or maybe you're more in the consistent, methodical space, right, as you do what you do. Regardless, as an entrepreneur, there are always unexpected occurrences. There are changes that happen last minute that require you to respond to, or require someone to respond to them. The question, just becomes how consistent is your routine in between those moments? Really, that was really clear for me last year in the pandemic. I approached the year from this consistent place, this idea of having sort of measured progress toward specific achievable pieces or goals. And then the pandemic hit, and that changed significantly what the type of energy that I was putting in. I found myself significantly closer to that early startup mode energy that I was talking about for my son last night. So that's my message for you today. Just letting you know that regardless of which space you're in, those are two energy modes that we might have to occupy at a given time. And if you're early in your process and you find yourself using the sort of random pocket of time version of your energy where you're getting things done when you can, just know that that can take you places. That is the fuel oftentimes that gets things done. You'll get a lot of things done in a spurt, and then you won't get things done, and then you'll get a lot of things done in a spurt. That's okay. But you may have a point where you need to transition into a more consistent, methodical approach. So just be aware that might be essential, especially when you have a team, especially as you start to build more and more of the framework around supporting what it is that you do. If this was useful for you, like, follow, and subscribe. In future episodes, I want to dive a little bit deeper into some of the details of building an enterprise. I received a question recently about some of the different funding models and methods that you might use, some of the ways that you might go about staffing up an organization like that, some of the ways you might find talent. I want to answer some of those tactical questions. I only have a small set of those stored away, though, and so if you have specific questions that you want me to answer, specific things that are specific to what you're working on, I'd be more than happy to answer those, but I need to know about them. So go ahead and reply right now in the chat, or if you're watching this on a replay, hit #replay and leave a comment. Leave a comment letting me know. I see those comments and I respond to those comments, and that is the best way for you to get your questions to me, so I can make sure that I'm making these episodes something that's useful for you. If you're not subscribed but you're watching this and you found this useful, do hit that subscribe button.